They posted the video an hour before sunrise because that's when my cousin's group chat always lit up. My mother didn't see it till 7, but by then, half our block had clicked and commented, sharing it faster than I'd ever spread anything worthwhile. The first minutes were a slow burn, but then people started tagging friends, and soon I was everywhere, on people's phones, on tablets slipped into pockets at the bodega, on screens at the gym, and probably in those tight little hair salons that seem to know your business before you even do. I didn't watch it right away, I couldn't, but when I eventually pressed play, my hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone, I saw my younger brother, twisting between starts of laughter as he held up the jacket I'd been working on in my bedroom for weeks. The light caught the patches and mismatched stitches, the sleeves were uneven, the paint too thick on one side, but the idea was there. I still remember. I wanted something nobody on our block had yet seen. My brother was always a good mimic, especially when it came to me. His voice went up an octave as he pranced across the living room. "Look, I'm Evan, fashion's next legend. Remember this, y'all, you could be wearing original Evan Delano before the world knows my name. If you pay him, he'll paint your garbage bag for $16 or 2 slices of pizza." The camera bobbed up and down while my cousin screamed in the background, "This jacket gonna get you beat up in the 6 train." The internet ate it up, droves of people spitting their piece, some I knew, plenty I didn't. I kept staring until my vision blurred, not even looking at the comments, just at my face in the mirror behind him, caught for a second at the edge of the frame, just standing there, thin and tired, fingertips stained with navy blue. By lunchtime, I couldn't walk to the corner for coffee without feeling eyes on me. A guy I barely recognized from grade school coughed out, "Runway superstar," as I passed, brushing crumbs off the table like he owned the block. On every stoop someone laughed. My father just scowled a little deeper when he saw the stitches unraveling at my cuffs. That week they all took turns, mother, father, siblings, neighbors, cashiers at the grocery. Dream bigger, Evan. But dream smart. How many designers from East 167th make it, huh? Sewing is for grandmothers. You planning to patch up jeans for a living? I grew up fat on their laughter, thin on approval. But it wasn't until that day, with my hands still raw from holding the phone too long, I realized that grief could be sharp as glass. It cut under the skin, pressing me to the edge of what I could take. Yet there was clarity too, glinting in its wake. As the video circled, I saw my choices: let it eat me or learn to use the pain. I holed up in my room that weekend, sorting through the scraps I'd collected. I'd always picked up things that others threw out: old shirts, curtains with burn marks, denim worn so thin you could almost see through it. I kept sewing quietly. After a while, the noise faded to the background. My parents arguing over bills, the train rattling down Jerem Avenue, wind tugging at the loose windowpane. I got to know grief, heavy in the bones, cool as metal but honest too. Nothing changed fast. I worked nights stocking milk in the supermarket. Sometimes I drew between customers, quick blue lines on receipt paper. Other times I'd sketch in my head, building patterns from the way sun spilled across our tile floor, from flyers flapping on streetlight poles, from the colors washed over stoops after rain. Years spun by. I moved out, just across the Bronx, nothing fancy, to a place with bigger windows and an old sewing machine blessedly quiet compared to the one I left behind. My family didn't notice much. My sister came by once and told me I needed to stop wasting time. "Fashion doesn't happen for people like us," she said, sipping soda, feet up on the tiny crate I used for a table. "Somebody has to make it," I whispered, fiddling with thread, but I don't think she heard me. I sent portfolios and sketches to every address I found online. Most came back with nothing, a handful with clipped rejections. More often silence. Day after day, I kept working, chest aching when I remembered their laughter. At night I'd lay flat and stare at the taillights flickering outside, listening to faraway music from a window somewhere up the block. Clarity came in soft, rare moments, like one evening, sitting with a jacket I'd pieced together from a patch of flannel shirts and a thrifted leather sleeve. For a second, I saw a shape I hadn't before, a line tracing the collar like the dawn over our row of houses. I laughed then, alone, a sound so unfamiliar I almost didn't recognize it. The next Sunday, an Instagram message hit my phone. A woman, Helen, said she curated a tiny pop-up in Soho and liked my work. "A fresh look, real city angles," she wrote. Her words felt dangerous, promising more than reality ever delivered, but I said yes. The showcase wasn't glamorous. 2 folding tables, 3 jackets, a pile of hand-stitched bandanas. Most people drifted past, headed for silkscreen tees or vegan shoes. But near noon, a guy with a thin scarf and sharp eyes started asking questions. I told him about the East 167th, about late nights with a borrowed sewing machine, about making something out of nothing. He nodded, bought a jacket full price. I took his card, trembling. He called 3 weeks later. He managed sourcing for a mid-sized label downtown. It's not much, he said, but we could use someone with your touch for a small run. Urban patchwork, think you're up for it? I stammered out yes, heart-battering ribs. I worked those nights like time had teeth, churning out samples, perfecting lines, burning my fingers on the iron. They paid on time, introduced me to their circle. Word crawled slowly, but somebody always knew somebody. Gigs stacked up, first 10 items, then 30, then a real capsule collection. Nothing viral, nothing explosive, just steady, tough progress. I still worked another job. Almost there, I'd tell myself as I swept floors at the pizza shop, fingers tapping out jacket designs in my mind. Sometimes I wondered if anyone from the old neighborhood noticed, if my brother, grown into a real estate assistant now, remembered that video, if my mother followed my Instagram from a burner account, silently tracking every photo. Years folded into each other, then one morning, sitting in the shared studio I rented in Queens, my phone pulsed again. This time, Vogue wants to interview you. Then, CFDA Emerging Designer Award shortlist. You're a finalist. I almost spit out my coffee. My hands shook the old way, but this time they didn't drop anything. The weeks after passed in a blur of fittings, press junkets, and city buses. I wore one of my jackets on the interview shoot. The photographer, a woman with straight silver hair, asked me about getting started. Rough, I answered, but I suppose that's part of it. I wanted to make what I hadn't seen, and nobody else wanted to see it either, at first. She nodded unfazed. Now. I shrugged. Maybe people finally caught up, or maybe I did. They aired the segment on a Thursday just after dusk. My face, older now but unmistakably mine, filled living rooms and lobby TVs. My designs shimmered under studio lights, every color and patchwork impossible to ignore. I didn't go home right away. I waited, letting the news marinate. Messages flew in, strangers, stylists, a teacher from 5th grade, a few journalists asking about my rags to runway story, but the ones I feared most remained silent. No calls from family, no texts. I went sleepless for 2 nights, adrenaline and dread twisting my insides to knots, then a flicker on my phone. Ma, so proud, Evan. PLS, come by if you cans. I stood in the shower until the water ran cold, thinking, grief and pride threading together, making something new. When I arrived on the block, it was dusk, wind scraping trash along the curb. Familiar buildings, cracked concrete, steps where my cousins used to smoke cheap cigarettes and talk nonsense. My mother's doorway, dull yellow light, same chipped paint. It all hit me at once, a flood of sound, memory, salt on the tongue. Inside, all of them crammed into the kitchen. Mom in her apron pretending to stir sauce, Dad at the table silent. My brother, older, heavier set, perched by the fridge, hands jammed in his pockets, eyes darting from phone to floor. I stood in the doorway, jacket slung over my arm, the samples from my new collection tucked in a canvas bag. The air was heavy and nobody spoke for a minute. Then my aunt cut through the quiet, voice pinched and strained. So big shot, huh? I almost didn't recognize you on TV. A few laughs, awkward. My cousin eyed my bag, smirking like he'd never left 12th grade. I felt the old shame coiling in my chest, but I breathed through it. I laid the bag carefully on the table. I brought something, I said, voice steady as I could manage. I pulled the jackets out one by one, different from what they'd mocked years back. Sleeves finished sharp, collars clean, colors crashed together but with purpose, with history stitched into every line. Their faces hovered over the fabric, murmuring, "These, you made these." My younger cousin, the one who posted the video, stared too openly for someone who'd spent years doing everything not to see me. I did. Dad fingered the seams, running his thumb along a hem. Looks professional. He didn't look at me, but his grip trembled a little. I slid my phone across the table. My work gleaming under runway lights, models striding through conference halls in my patchwork. On screen, a Vogue headline blinked in bright letters, "From the Bronx to the Big Apple, EVANDLANO signature stitch." My brother frowned, face unreadable. He opened Instagram, scrolling till he found the verified badge next to my name. He showed it around, as if the little blue check could speak more clearly than I ever had. My mother reached out, pressing her hand to my shoulder. "We're proud, Evan," she whispered, voice breaking just a little. "I mean it." The kitchen stayed silent but not cold. My aunt dabbed her eyes, muttering about onions. My cousin took photos for Snapchat, proof maybe, something tangible to say he'd been here for this moment. I looked at each of them, the brother who mocked, the parents who doubted, the community that chose laughter over hope. I tasted salt again, but this time it was something else, not grief, not quite pride, but relief threaded thick with love. I made it because you said I couldn't, I said, voice rough but true, and because some dreams are worth the risk. Even if you have to face it alone. They watched me, not certain what to say, but when my phone buzzed, another message, this time from an editor who wanted to feature my line in Paris, I didn't hide the grin that spread across my face. I tucked the phone away and sat. The kitchen was too small, but somehow it felt enough. Later that night, as I walked home across the same old sidewalks, I glanced through dusty apartment windows. I caught faded dreams on the air, old men humming radios, young kids skipping jump rope, teens hunched over phones telling jokes I once knew. My city hadn't changed, but I had. It was just past midnight when I wandered back into my building, jacket warm against autumn's chill, bags heavier with proof than any mockery. For the first time, I didn't picture the video or the laughter. I closed my eyes and saw color, sharp, alive, cutting through darkness. And for a quiet moment, alone above the city I'd once wanted to escape, I knew I belonged.